Hi world, it's 22nd of October 2022, it's about 20 past 9 in the morning. This is a video on King Charles and his coming coronation. Don't turn off just yet, because this is probably the last, I hope, this is the last video I do on any members of the British royal family until May of next year. But I've got to do it because there's a lot of loose ends that need tying up. The Queen of England died at 10 past 3. On September the 8th, 2022, at which point Prince Charles became King of England. There was no gap between. At the moment she died, he became king, although in name only. There cannot be a gap between monarchs, otherwise we have an interregnum, a period between monarchs. And the last time that happened was for a 12-year period in the 1640s, and we had the Civil War, and we don't want that again. So King Charles became king at 10 past 3 on September the 8th, but it was a void moon. The documentation of the Queen's death astrologically is well known. I've done a video on it myself. The moon was conjunct Saturn at the time of her death. It had just passed the conjunction and it had gone void. It was on her Saturn, on her Mars, opposite her Neptune, square her Saturn. She died a good death at the right time. But the fact is, King Charles became king on a void moon. A couple of days later, there was the proclamation, which was done in some very regal circumstances, with lots of pomp and circumstance and lots of nice uniforms, and it happened at precisely 11 a.m. UK time on the morning of Saturday the 10th of September. However, at precisely 11 a.m. on the morning of Saturday the 10th of September, there was a full moon at 17.5 degrees of Pisces. Now we have the coronation. The coronation will be on May the 6th, 2023. Now, if we look at the chart for May the 6th, we don't have a time, obviously, as yet. There will be a void moon on May the 6th. It won't start until about 3:30 in the afternoon. So I imagine that won't affect the proceedings. I can't see the king being crowned later than 3:30 in the afternoon. But what's really important is that the day before the coronation, there is a almost total eclipse of the sun. 95% of the sun will be occluded at the time of maximum eclipse. This would be taking place at 14, nearly 15 degrees of Scorpio, right on the Beltane point, Samhain-Beltane point. So this is to me quite a crap time to have a coronation immediately after a near eclipse, total eclipse of the sun. And I did a little bit of digging. At the time of the coronation, Saturn in the sky will be with less than half a degree away from opposing King Charles's Saturn. It'll be his 2.5 Saturn return. Saturn in his chart is at 5 degrees Virgo. Saturn in the sky will be at 5 degrees of Pisces. This isn't necessarily a bad thing for someone of an age. It's actually quite grounding and confirming. Jupiter in the sky will be trining his Jupiter. So for him, it's actually quite a nice time for a coronation for him. For his wife, who's also getting crowned that day, not so. She was born with a lot of planets in the 12th house. She was born with the Sun, Mercury, Venus and the Moon, all in Cancer, all in the 12th house. So she's very private and quite alone in certain ways. Not lonely, but alone. At the time, on the day of the coronation, Mars in the sky is going to be 1.5 degrees away from her Sun, 1.5 degrees away from her Mercury. So I imagine that she's going to be in a bit of a impatient dither. She's going to be a bit all over the place come the day of the coronation. Not that we as the public will see it. What I do note is that the eclipse of the day before is going to be pretty strongly, not exactly, but 2.5 degrees away from opposing her Jupiter. Jupiter in Camilla Parker Bowles's horoscope, Camilla Windsor as she should be called, is the ruler of her 6th house of health. There have always been, astrologically at least, and I am as guilty as this as many other astrologers, suggestions around the state of her health. And I still remain concerned around her long-term health from an astrological perspective. When I put all of these different facts together, that Charles became king on a void moon, that the proclamation announcing him as king to the world was made exactly at a full moon, which is closure, not beginning, and that he's having his coronation the day after a total eclipse of the moon, where 95% of the moon is going to be occluded. The moon will be in Scorpio, the sun will be in Taurus. This is worrying. From my perspective, it confirms to me that his tenure as king will not be long. Also, the astrological evidence suggesting that his wife's health is not as robust as everyone would like it to be also suggests that his concern will be as much for her as it will be for his country. So it would not surprise me if Charles's reign were not to be short and that he were to not so much abdicate, because that's been done before and it did work very well, but it wasn't meant to be that way. Abdication is I can't see Charles abdicating, but I can see him stepping right back and making William Prince Regent or King Regent. And I don't think Charles is going to be actually active on the throne for that long. I would suggest a couple of years, no more. We shall see. I hope I don't have to do anything else on the royal family again until we get to May. I hope this has been interesting and helpful. Bye now.